Hello.
Hi, Anna.
We are live.
I'm here with Anna Segal. She's a professional skier with accolades as a two-time world champion, an X Games gold medalist, film producer alongside her sister, and now an active backcountry skiing pro with parts in the award-winning films under the Blank Film Productions. She's a dear friend of mine, a brilliant mind with an even bigger smile, as well as a contributing coach to the Salty Club's Move and Breathe with a Pro, and a recreational surfer. Anna, it's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Taylor. It's exciting.
For the listeners that aren't entrenched in the mountain world, could you give us a little rundown on your career, how you started skiing and how your skiing has transitioned to where it is now?
Sure. I feel like I've kind of dipped my toes in all aspects of skiing. I started as a racer when I was about 7 and did that till I was 14. I was okay, but not great, but I really loved it. But I loved going off jumps and getting air. So when I was 14, I started mogul skiing, which is like the bumps and the jumps. You might have seen it in the Olympics. And because that let me, get into the air and start learning tricks. And I kind of went full force into that and made the Australian development team when I was 16, I think, and started traveling internationally and competing in Europa Cups, which is the one level below World Cup. And I did that for 3 years and thought that that's what I was going to do. And I wanted to go ahead and try and make the Olympic team. But after my first big knee injury, I sort of reconsidered and decided that I wanted to give slopestyle and freestyle or free skiing a try. I had some really great role models that I looked up to over in North America, including Sarah Burke and Christy Leskinen and Marie Martineau, who's actually French. And I'd watched them in all the movies and I wanted to do what they did. So I quit mogul skiing, I left my team, and I ventured over to the US by myself to give that a shot. And it went well for me. So I started competing, I started doing well in contests. I eventually got invited to X Games and won on my first year in X Games. And then, that kind of launched my real professional skiing career where I, could pay the bills from skiing. And I did that for 10 years, I think. Competed in the Sochi 2014 Olympics. And then after that decided I wanted to give backcountry skiing a try. So that's where I am now, still trying, learning every day and enjoying almost every minute of it.
And what's the difference for in lifestyle for people that maybe don't do or aren't familiar with competing versus like a backcountry lifestyle?
I think the contest scene is a lot more organized. You kind of know before the season starts, you know what contests you're going to be in, you know the sort of schedule and the timeline that you need to prepare, you know when you're going to have downtime, when you're going to have to be on it. And I think that's almost mentally a little bit easier. With backcountry skiing and filming and shooting photos, it all depends on the weather. And you don't know if you're going to be going hard for 6 weeks straight with no days off. I mean, that's kind of impossible. But, if the snow is really good for 6 weeks straight, you just have to make the most of it. You don't know if you're going to have 2 months of downtime because there's no snow. It's a little bit more variable and a bit up in the air, and you just have to be really adaptable as to like the skiing conditions and the weather. You often don't plan trips until a week before. You just have to be ready to like get everything together, make sure your body and mind are intact and just go for it when the conditions are right. So I think that would be the biggest difference. At the start of the season when people would be like, oh, what's your plan for the winter? When I was a contest skier, I'd be able to say, oh, first I got G Tour, then I got X Games, and I got the European Open. But with film skiing and backcountry skiing, you're just kind of like, I don't know. It depends where the snow's at. So that's really fun. It means that things are always changing, and you never get, it's less likely that you get stuck in a rut, less likely to get bored, but it's also quite challenging.
I feel like it's been one of the biggest lessons personally for me is like the idea of non-attachment. You kind of get excited about all these trips, but then you realize like, okay, now we have to wait and see what the weather's doing. And all those trips might be pushed back like a year or 2 years, but then like you said, it's ever changing. So like maybe a new opportunity pops up because the conditions are like super stable and great somewhere else. You're like, makes it fun.
Yeah, the idea of not getting attached to trips or to what you're going to do. You know, like one season you might be like, I'm going to get really good at pillow season skiing or snowboarding, but that season there happen to be no good pillows, and so you get good at something else, and you just have to be like really open to opportunity and go with the flow, which for me has been really hard because I'm quite a structured person. Some people like to refer to me as slightly A-type. But I think it's been really good for me personally to try and be more flexible and stay positive no matter what happens.
And not only are you a professional athlete, but you also hold a few other forms of income, like many athletes, outside of your skiing. How do you balance that out with the big days?
That's also been something that I've been trying to get better at. Is I have a side job, part-time job doing marketing for a couple different companies, and I really love it. I do more marketing hours in the summer and in the fall, and it's a good way to make extra income and also keep my brain active and structure my days. But when the ski season starts, I have found it really hard to balance. And this has actually come up for me in the last few weeks, how to balance, you know, friendships and spending time with friends and partners and pets and skiing and looking after your body. And I actually recently just called my boss and was completely honest to him and just said, I'm really struggling. What can I do about it? And for me, it's delegating to other people on our team at the business. So I'm hoping that works, taking a step back and being organized and just asking other people to help, because I only get paid for the hours that I work. So if I'm not working, I'm not getting paid, and that's okay. And it means someone else is getting paid. So that's good. So that's sort of what I'm trying to work on at the moment, is sort of asking other people for help and also giving other people some of my work.
Oh, it's such a life skill, always finding the balance.
Yeah. I think it's probably something that people have to work on throughout their professional careers. And
totally. And like it's always changing and taking on new projects or finding the rhythm with one. And
I'll go ahead.
Oh no, it sounds like you're figuring it out though.
Yeah. I mean, another thing I do is write lists. Like before I go to bed, I have my little daily planner next to me. So when things are like running around in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I start getting stressed. I just pick up my daily planner and like dot point what I have to do. And I kind of break it up over the next few days. So that seems to help me quite a lot. Just knowing that it's like down on paper and I'll do it tomorrow and I'm not going to forget.
Same. As soon as it comes up, just put it down so your brain doesn't have to hold on to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And to paint a picture for our guests, what does a day of filming look like? Just to like give an example of why it might be so challenging to be balancing out all these things.
Yeah. Well, I can go through my day yesterday because that was a pretty typical day of filming at home out of Pemberton. So I woke up at 5:15. I did 5 minutes of meditation because that's all I had time for. Made a coffee and took my dog for a 10-minute walk just for a little relief. Grabbed my pre-prepared lunch and breakfast out of the fridge, chucked everything in my truck, which has my snowmobile on it, my skis, double checked I had my ski touring skins, like all the things I needed for the day. Made another coffee, grabbed my breakfast to go, jumped in the truck and headed towards Whistler, a bit south of Whistler. So it was about an hour drive yesterday. The snow conditions were really bad. Sorry, the road conditions were really bad. Got to the parking lot at 7:20, had 10 minutes to eat my breakfast and finish my coffee, met the rest of the crew, unloaded the sled, packed everything on it and headed out up the mountain on the snowmobile. And from there, we had expectations of what we thought the snow was going to be like. And on the way up to our destination, we sort of checked the snow and found that it was a little bit funky and not what we had expected. And best words I can use to describe yesterday was we dicked around a lot. We headed to this big old growth forest where we wanted to get some shots. We thought some beautiful fresh snow and powder would be there, but the snow had actually warmed up a lot and the trees had shed a lot of snow. So it was what we called tree bombed, where the snow from the trees kind of wrecks the snow underneath. So we replanned, we found another plan, and we headed up to a higher area. We kind of messed around a lot. We got our snowmobile stuck because the snow was really deep and sticky. Spent a lot of energy digging our sleds out.
And just to share with the listeners, these machines are like 500 pounds. And when you get stuck, they like cement in. So you got to like dig around when you get stuck, and you got to like woman handle them over, flip them. Yeah. It's very physically demanding. So yeah. Kudos.
Yeah. Lots of sweating, laughing, swearing. We found that there wasn't anything we really wanted to do up higher. So we went back down again into the forest, and we found one little sort of line that we got the camera out for. And I did like a little pillow line, which is when you have like big mounds of puffy snow lined up into pillows. I did that. My friend hit a little air and tomahawked forward and got stuck upside down in the snow, which was a bit scary because the snow was sticky. So we dug her out and decided that was enough for the day. We weren't going to get any shots. It was about 2 p.m. at that point, and we headed back down to the car park and got back to our trucks at about 3. So that was a typical unproductive day, but often they go better than that. But it's just like we were saying, it's not holding on to expectations. You know, we all thought the snow was going to be really light and fluffy, and we'd have these beautiful shots through the trees, and there was a temperature spike overnight, and that's just the weather. So we laughed about it, we headed home, and you know, when no one's hurt and you can laugh, that's a good day in the mountains.
Totally. The goal is always to make it home safe no matter what. So
yeah. And I got home to my cute little dog, took him for a little walk, and all was good.
And you mentioned looking for features in the old growth forest. So you're so connected to nature. How has a life spent connected to a sport that's so entrenched in the mountains shaped your perspective and how you show up in your day-to-day?
Yeah, I think being so dependent on Mother Nature and the weather makes you more attuned to it. I mean, not only checking the weather every single day and watching for patterns, but on a bigger picture, you're sort of watching the seasons and how and when winter hits and when winter ends and the temperatures throughout the winter. And when we have big temperature changes in the mountains, that's often that will often cause high avalanche risk because the snow layers don't bond together well. And so these big temperature fluctuations, which it seems like we're having more, affects the risks that we're taking. And so that's scary. And I think even though I can't say that I've lived in this part of the world for so long. I've only lived here for 7 years. Talking to a lot of people that have lived here longer, it's just with these huge temperature fluctuations and extreme weather events, it's making it scarier to be in the mountains. And I think it's a part of global warming and climate change. And the issue with that is it's holding us back from playing in the mountains as we would like. And that's the least of our problems, I think, but it's something that like hits home. And so I think it makes a lot of people that play in the outdoors more concerned with climate change and want to, actively try and combat it a little bit more. So I think if I'd taken another path in life and lived in the city and worked a 9-to-5 job in an office, I'd be less aware and maybe less caring. So I feel lucky to have an awareness and to have an appreciation of the weather and the climate, and hopefully more people can connect with nature and maybe do the same.
Totally. We're so lucky to be so connected to nature and to be out there and really experiencing the beauty, but then also comes with seeing like all the impact that we're having from the decisions we're making. So
true. And I think like along with that, it does bring a bit of guilt as well. You know, we're talking about riding around on snowmobiles and driving trucks and sometimes, you know, I live in Canada, but my family's in Australia. So I might fly back to Australia once a year. And I think all of that brings guilt because you see the climate changing, but you're still living this like fossil fueled life. So that's always a bit of a struggle, but yeah, I think a lot of people are going through that at the moment. It's not just athletes. So trying to do our best and change things that we can is important. But, you know, the guilt's always up there in my brain, to be honest.
it would be interesting to speak to a psychologist or counselor and find out how often that's coming up, because it really is prevalent in our current times of we are all contributing to this. And yeah, I guess in a sense, we're all hypocrites, but we also can't be taken down by that. And we still need to, I mean, snowmobiles, there's incredible technology coming out with potential electric sleds and all these other options. So it's really nice to see that happening. But yeah, I guess for everyone listening, I feel like anyone who's connected to nature, we can all say that we do feel that guilt too. But the importance is to band together and we can all do what we can and strive for improvement versus perfection.
Yeah, and like and knowing who you're voting for and you know and being connected politically, because you know I think the biggest change will happen higher up, but you know we can still inspire and motivate people around us by like taking our own actions to try and combat it. So yeah,
100%.
one of those things that you got to self-work, you know, and trying your best.
Yeah. And for anyone listening and interested in getting into skiing, do you have any advice on picking up a new sport?
Oh, yes. I've started a few new sports in my adult life. I started surfing when I was about 19. I started rock climbing when I was 28, and I started snowmobiling just 3 years ago. So I know what it feels like to be a beginner, and it's really humbling. And I'm almost like, it's really nice to be back in that position actually, because you can have more empathy of what other people are going through. But okay, so for skiing, I would say choosing the right gear when you're starting is really important. Boots are the most important piece of equipment. If you're going to ball out on anything, ball out in boots. You can buy secondhand skis, secondhand binding, secondhand clothing, but you want to make sure you get a really good boot fit for your level and your feet, because when you're in pain, you're not going to be having fun and you're going to be less likely to be out there. And the boots is where like all the control comes from. So if there's one piece of equipment that you go for, it's ski boots. Potentially different for snowboarding, but this is for skiing. I'd say like 1 or 2 lessons are probably good. But then just getting out on snow as much as you can, I think, is the really important thing. So time on snow equals comfort, and just taking baby steps and like pushing yourself a little bit, but not too much. And yeah, that's what I found with like surfing and rock climbing and also snowmobiling. Just like the more time you can get out there and do it, the more that like the skills you learn solidify, and then you can like get on to the next step. So yeah, that would be my best advice, I think.
And what about advice for mindset? Because it can be so disheartening learning something new and also being surrounded maybe by people that are really good at something. Like personally, like I had a really hard time with that with surfing, like just being so awful at the beginning. Do you have any mindset advice for people getting into any new sport?
Yeah, and like I can definitely relate to that with surfing as well. And sometimes I still feel like that, you know, like when everyone else is getting waves because they're better than you and you literally haven't caught one, and you're just like so bummed and so aggravated. And the thing that I try and do is remind myself why I'm there, and I'm why I'm outside surfing or why I'm outside skiing or rock climbing. And for me, it's usually one, to be in a beautiful environment with friends. So whether you're catching waves or not, or whether you're falling down on the ski hill or not, you're still outside nature and probably with friends. And also to get exercise. And so when I'm surfing or I'm skiing or when I'm rock climbing, like whether I'm making my goal or not, I'm still getting exercise. I'm still trying. You know, when you're surfing, you're just like duck diving, duck diving, duck diving. It's like, okay, I'm getting stronger. And I'm with my friends and I'm outside in a beautiful environment. So that's what I try and remind myself when I'm learning new things, like relating that to snowmobiling, like I'm getting stuck. I have to like dig myself out. I'm like, I look around, I realize where I am in this beautiful mountain environment, getting exercise, and my friends are there to help me. So, you know, that's why I'm there and that's what I'm doing. And if you're getting waves or getting a nice power slash, that's just icing on the cake.
Absolutely. And when the purpose is aligned, then everything seems to fall back into place and we don't get lost in our head and take away the power from the ego. And I think that's such a great piece of advice.
Yeah. I constantly have to remind myself, but that's kind of what I think about when I start feeling frustrated.
Same. Is there any final things you'd like to say to our listeners? In terms of maybe women lifting each other up and how important that is.
Yeah, I would say like whether you're surfing or skiing or snowboarding or rock climbing or sledding, I think having other women around you that are positive and also into the sport or activity as much as you are is really important. I know that I found a really great group of girls in Pemberton and Whistler recently, including you, Taylor, that, you know, just are a positive influence on my life and are going through similar things with the sport and all the activity that I am. And I think finding women that are as motivated and as driven as you is really important. And like find your crew. And I've been living in this area for 7 years and it's only happened over the last couple of years that I've really found that. So keep looking. and they're there, you know, like they're probably listening to this podcast or they're probably on the Salty Club. And do you know what would be cool if the Salty Club had like some kind of forum that people could find each other on, you know? I don't know how that would work, but like maybe on the website, like a location forum where people could find each other to surf or to ski or to snowboard. But
it's such a great idea, like a adventure partner Tinder, but not for dating.
Almost like a map where like people that are subscribing are living. Could be cool. I don't know how you do that. I'm not techie enough, but if someone knows. Yeah. But yeah, look for your women. They're there, and enjoy every moment with them.
Well, Anna, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm personally so grateful for our friendship. I feel the same. It's it can be hard finding a women crew in such like a male dominant space, and same for me. It's taken like maybe like over 10 years to find that. So I want to share the same piece of inspiration. Keep looking for your crew and lift each other up. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks, Taylor. I'm looking forward to a nice dog walk today.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye. Thank you.